Hello, are you okay? Hope you're having a nice time. I miss you a lot, so I promised some stories. So I've got the first one today, and it's one that we've read before and you really liked it. It's an old favourite. It's called Funny Bones by Janet and Alan Alberg. Let's have a look. This is how the story begins. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. And in the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. In the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. And down the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. And in the dark, dark cellar, some skeletons lived. These are funny skeletons, aren't they? There was a big skeleton, a little skeleton, and a dog skeleton. One night, the big skeleton sat up in bed. He scratched his skull. "What shall we do tonight?" he said. "Let's take the dog for a walk," said the little skeleton, "and frighten somebody." "Good idea," the big skeleton said. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton and the dog skeleton left the dark, dark cellar, climbed the dark, dark stairs, and stepped out into the dark, dark street. They walked past the shops and the houses, and they walked past the zoo and the police station, and they went into the park. The big skeleton scratched his skull. He does that when he's thinking. Can you scratch your skull? That's that big bone in your head. Can you feel it? Oh, scratch. He's thinking. "What shall we do now?" he said. "Let's play on the swings," said the little skeleton, "and throw a stick for the dog and frighten somebody." "Good idea," the big skeleton said. So the big skeleton, the little skeleton and the dog skeleton walked round the dark, dark pond, past the dark, dark tennis courts and up to the dark, dark swings. The big skeleton and the little skeleton played on the swings. They threw a stick for the dog, but suddenly something happened. The dog skeleton chased the stick, tripped over a park bench, bumped into a tree, and ended up as a little pile of bones. Uh-oh. "Look at that," the big skeleton said. "He's all come to pieces. What shall we do now?" "Let's put him together again," the little skeleton said. So the big skeleton and the little skeleton put the dog skeleton together again, and they sang a song while they did it. "The toe bone's connected to the foot bone's connected to the leg bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the backbone." But then they got mixed up. "Is that a toe bone?" the little skeleton said. "Oh, that's not right, is it?" "Where does this one go?" said the big skeleton. "Look, they're doing it all wrong. They're putting him together wrong. And because he's all mixed up, his words are mixed up as well. So he's all the wrong order there. So his words the wrong order as well. So instead of saying woof, he's saying waffo. That's woof mixed up. Uh-oh. He's all mixed up again. Oofwa. Oofwa. That's not right, is it? That's not woof. Uh-oh. Oh off. Uh-oh. Just not right at all. Now, when they had finished, the big skeleton said, "That dog looks a bit funny to me." "So he does," said the little skeleton. "We've got his tail on the wrong end and his head." So he's back to front, and listen what he says. "Foo." That's woof backwards. Foo. So silly. the dog was properly put back together again. The big skeleton and the little skeleton sang another song. These bones can bark again. They can run round in the park again. They can frighten people in the dark again. The big skeleton scratched his skull. That reminds me, he said, we forgot to frighten somebody. Let's do it on the way home then, said the little skeleton. Good idea, said the big skeleton. So the big skeleton, the little skeleton and the dog skeleton left the dark, dark swings, went out into the dark, dark town and tried to frighten somebody. And they're saying, I wish we had a nice little boy to frighten. I wish we had a nice old lady. It's not very nice, is it? Frightening people. The trouble was, there wasn't anybody. Everybody was in bed. Even the policemen in the police station were in bed. Even the animals in the zoo. But of course, the skeleton animals were still awake. Can you tell what these are? These skeleton animals. That one's an easy one. Look at his long neck. It's a giraffe. And some fish. And this one's saying squeak, 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 squeak. So perhaps that's the sort of a mouse. It's quite small, isn't it? Oh, this one's hanging upside down on a branch and it's saying snort. Not sure, perhaps it's a sloth. His face doesn't look like a sloth, I don't know. I know what this one is. Look at that long bendy skeleton. It's a snake, isn't it? And this one's saying oink. Can you tell what that is? Let's have a ride on the elephant skeleton, the little skeleton said. Gee up, Nelly. Let's have a word with the parrot skeleton. Good evening, all. He can talk. Who's a cheeky boy then? Have a cup of tea. Pretty Polly, put the kettle on, mother. Very chatty. The big skeleton scratched his skull. Let's keep away from the crocodile skeleton, he said. Why do you think? I think it might eat them up. When they were back in the street and when they still could not find anybody to frighten, the big skeleton said, what shall we do now? The little skeleton scratched his skull. Let's frighten each other, he said. That's better than nothing. Good idea, the big skeleton said. What a brain. So after that, the big skeleton frightened the little skeleton. I'm coming to get you. The little skeleton frightened the big skeleton. Gotcha! Grabbed his foot from down the drain. The big skeleton and the little skeleton frightened the dog skeleton. Meow! And the dog skeleton frightened them. Woof! Uh-oh. Look, he's so scared it blew his hat off. They're so silly. They hid round corners and frightened each other. They climbed up lamp posts and frightened each other. Look, he's grabbed his hat from up there. He's jumping out of the bin to frighten the dog. They jumped out of dustbins to frighten each other. Ooh, he's been a ghost. Help! All the way home. And that's how the story ends. On a dark, dark hill, there was a dark, dark town. In the dark, dark town, there was a dark, dark street. And in the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark staircase. And down the dark, dark staircase, there was a dark, dark cellar. And in the dark, dark cellar, some skeletons lived. And they still do. The end.